thank you for everything you've done for the city of Sparks. We appreciate it.
Thank you, and well said and mission accomplished.
Thank you. Thank you very
much. You've been listening to a conversation with Councilman Ron Schmidt, who served the city of Sparks, Ward 5 since June 11th, 2001.
Classic car fans descend on Sparks every August for a week of classic rock and roll, great food, and beautiful machines. Hot August Nights is an iconic Sparks event that brings thousands of people and millions in revenue to the region each year after year. After a run of close to 3 decades, Hot August Nights is a huge success for the city of Sparks. The nostalgic celebration of mid-century cars and music generates an economic impact around $250 million for the region. In 2015, the event alone brought 500,000 people into town from 40 different states. Many booked hotel rooms for 4-night stays. An increase in traffic helps many local businesses, from auto parts stores to restaurants. There are many changes after the 2015 event, to include a new 3-year agreement, which gives the official hosting of the kickoff event to Virginia City. Now, every year, the Mayor of Sparks is proud to choose his favorite car at Hot August Nights. With hundreds of beautiful cars and trucks to choose from, it's never easy. This year, Mayor Gino Martini and his wife, Ruth, allowed us to tag along as they took on the very difficult task of choosing one car.
Here we are with the Mayor's City of Sparks Award, and our own Mayor Gino Martini coming out there to congratulate our winner of this prestigious award.
And that's it for this installment of Spotlight on Sparks. I'm Adam Mayberry. Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay in touch with the city on Facebook and Twitter and the city's own mobile app. And remember, it's happening here.
Even if no one in your home smokes, secondhand smoke can be closer than you think. Secondhand smoke from a neighbor's apartment can enter your home through air vents, through light fixtures, and even through cracks in the walls and the floors. Secondhand smoke is toxic, especially to children. Protect your family.
I have 3 tests next week. I'm going to be studying all weekend. Ugh. Are you studying tonight? We can meet up and study together. Oh, yeah, that sounds good. What time? I work until 6. Okay, sounds good. Just text me after. Okay. No!
There is no text, tweet, or call that's worth a life.
One pedestrian death is one too many.
Look up.
And look out for each other. 2016 with a roll call, please.
Mayor Martini.
Here.
Members Ratty. Here. Lawson. Here. Smith, absent. Bybee. Here. Schmidt.
Here.
City Attorney Adams.
Here.
City Manager Driscoll.
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
I think I told Tracy, I don't know how to act with this many people in the room, so forgive me if I make some mistakes, okay? I'm kind of nervous now, so we've got so many people here. So if you could all stand for the invocation by Pastor Barbara West from the Sparks Nazarene Church. Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you, Mayor. Would you all bow your heads in prayer with me, please? Father God, our Heavenly Father, we are thankful for the dawning of another new day. And we do ask you, Lord, to bless all of the attendees here today for this fine city council meeting. And you know that the docket is always full of things, and every decision made affects all of us here in Sparks. So we do lift up our mayor and this fine council and ask you to give them wisdom as they proceed with everything on the schedule today. And we pray that all of us would just be glad that we still have a vote in the matter, because we vote for our leaders, and we're thankful for these leaders that you have put in place that we voted for. Now help them and give them wisdom. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Barb, you think that was a sign that we got there? Or? We'll be good, Lord. Okay, if you'd all remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Adams, would you read us, please?
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in pledging allegiance to the flag of the greatest nation on earth. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So just so you realize what lengths I'll go through to get a t-shirt for free, somebody gave me this and they said if I wore it at the council I could have it for free. So I said, you know, free t-shirt, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So, but I like it anyway, it's good. Okay, public comment. We have anybody for public comment? I think I have one, and that would be anonymous. Didn't hear before. Come on up, dear.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I'm speaking anonymously due to the retaliation we survivors of domestic violence are receiving. I'm here just to update you on the legal causes of action that we and our children have against the city of Sparks. As you have reason to know, in 2013, the state of Nevada Supreme Court handed a ruling down to the city of Sparks. The ruling stated that the Sparks city employees who are housed in the municipal court are under the authority of the court, that is, the judges in the municipal court. The authority they have over these Sparks city employees is their ministerial duties, their day-to-day activities of filing court documents, and so on and so forth. The ruling also addressed hiring, firing, and discipline of these employees is to remain under the authority of the judges in the municipal court, specifically the chief judge who conducts administrative duties for the municipal court. The reason this is a significant ruling to Sparks is that all communities statewide are using this ruling to conduct their courts in their communities. An adjacent community has housed in their city limits a justice court and a district court. Sparks has housed a justice court. These courts are staffed by county people, and although the ruling by the Nevada Supreme Court doesn't address justice and district courts, the communities within the state of Nevada are using this ruling as a guideline for county employees. Again, I just would like you to know that altering, deleting, and destroying any court case file that involves a minor is an illegal activity under NRS 11.250. These children's rights are protected, and under NRS 199, crimes against public justice. I have mentioned on several occasions that the Sparks Police Department has chosen not to investigate these crimes, which is their right. The Chief of Police has discretion in his duties on what resources he chooses to use. So these children are going forward with their legal causes of action in the civil courts. I would like to remind you that 5 of the children have gone forward and in their legal causes of action, and they sued the state of Nevada. And I'll be real brief, just wrapping up if I may, sir. Thank you. Each of these children, there were 5, received a $3 million settlement. And that is put into a trust fund until these children reach the age of 18, which is the age of majority in the state of Nevada. They then have 3 years to sue all the parties involved, city, county, and state officials.
Okay, wrap it up, please.
And that $3 million then will be reassessed and will go upwards.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We have a question, Ms. Ratty? No?
Not
Okay, I'm sorry.
intentionally.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Anyone else under public comment? Okay, seeing no one, we'll go on to number 5, approval of the agenda. Anybody want to take anything out of order or remove from the agenda? If not, looking for a motion. Mr. Lawson.
Move to approve the agenda.
Ms. Bybee.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lawson, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve the agenda as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Thank you. 6.1, consideration and possible approval of the minutes of the regular Sparks City Council meeting of August 8th, 2016. Any omissions, deletions, or corrections? Okay, looking for a motion? Ms. Ratty.
Move to approve.
Ms. Bybee.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Ratty, second by Ms. Bybee to approve the minutes of August 8th, 2016. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, next is announcements and presentations. Presentation, annual report, Sparks Heritage Museum and Culture Center. Come on up. Give us your name for the record, please.
Mr. Mayor, council members, good afternoon. For the record, my name is Barbara Young. I'm the president of the Board of Trustees at the Sparks Museum and Cultural Center. I thank you for this opportunity to allow me to speak to you about the museum. The museum is very fortunate to have 50 dedicated volunteers. Without them, we could not stay open. The volunteers staff the front desk. They preserve the artifacts, maintain them, catalog them. They work on improving the exhibits constantly. They scan photographs for digitizing purposes. Our current project is painting all the walls in the office and also in the galleries in preparation for receiving the new carpet that the city will be providing this winter, and we thank you for that new carpet. Also, we have the Reno chapter of the Trinity Services, and they clean the train inside every week, keeping it in good working condition. The train is a popular item for people to see. Our museum trustee, Dick Dreiling, provides regular tours of the train every Saturday, and the museum also provides volunteers to staff the train during special events such as Hot August Nights and the Rib Cook-Off and 39 North Marketplace and Hometown Christmas Parade. Over 60% of the visitors who see the train do so during the special events. The tours are free to the public as a service to the community. As you can see on this slide, over 35% of the visitors come from outside of Nevada, the tourists. The people that are from outside of the United States come from interesting countries such as Brazil, Russia, Belgium, Japan, Australia, and Germany. Our executive director, Kelly Reese, is proactively bringing in local talented groups to the Cultural Center. This year, again, we participated in the Art Town event in July. We have art receptions, educational lectures, and dance shows, all free to the public. Our reasoning behind this is to hopefully provide awareness to the community that Sparks does have a museum and a cultural center that people can rent for their own activities and events. We encourage during those events for people to become a member, to donate funds to the museum, and spread the word about our facilities. Fiscal year 2016 brought in over 1,400 people to the Cultural Center alone. There's a page in your handout replicating this slide showing the activities for the last 6 months. 3 very special exhibits we had were from the Great Basin Native Artists, the local artists from the Latimer Art Club, and the Basque Museum in Idaho loaned us a complete exhibit explaining the culture and history of the Basque people. The museum held receptions for each of these different art exhibits so that the public could meet the local artists firsthand. We also had 6 educational lectures, a variety of topics, all by local speakers. Some were professors, some were on the Board of Trustees. We continue to have tours at the museum. We want to encourage more schools to participate in our guided tours so that children can learn the history of Sparks and the Truckee Meadows. Shown here on this slide is our museum trustee, Fred Horlocker. He's a retired history teacher. He takes a busload of people out into the outlying areas of Nevada. His love for the history of Nevada and his anecdotal stories and the wealth of his knowledge we're very fortunate to have and to share with people. Our doctor's buggy has been on the road now for a couple years. It first was loaned in 2014 to the airport where we created an exhibit. And this spring, Nevada Museum of Art asked to borrow it for their horse exhibit. We're quite proud to have such an item and happy to share it with the community at the different locations. And we're very grateful to Granite Construction for providing the transportation for this delicate buggy, which is over 100 years old. Our Cultural Center has a wide variety of customers renting the space. Community organizations such as Kiwanis, VFW, Lincoln Highway Association, and we also have some businesses using it and some families having celebrations for weddings, graduations, and memorials. There's also a swing dance club that meets there every month, and they've been doing so for the last couple of years. We're working on generating more activity in the Cultural Center because this is a revenue maker for us. The museum strives to preserve the historical heritage of Sparks for the education and enjoyment of others. The Board of Trustees reached out to a local author, Joyce Cox, to write a book for us. She's a retired research librarian, and she has experience in writing these Arcadia-style books, but she wrote this one on Washoe County. It's a lot of pictures and lengthy captions explaining the picture. The museum is providing photos and documents from our library for her research material so she can write the book. Joyce is generously doing this for us for free, and when the book goes on sale early 2017, all the profit proceeds of the book will be given to the museum. Joe is closer to completion. Right now he still looks like a ghost. The hot weather this summer has really slowed down the process because the materials used to restore Joe are temperature sensitive. The magnitude of the restoration work necessary was much greater than expected for Joe. He was built in 1958 and has certainly shown a lot of wear and tear. We are grateful to the Silver Wing Development and Mr. Jay Witt in particular. He has loaned us the lift for the operation of performing the work on this 36-foot tall character.
So anyway, he looks like a ghost now, but you don't know how close he came to really being a ghost.
That's for sure.
Right, Julia?
Yes. Yeah. And we have a lot of thankful people that we are thankful to help us restore. We started an endowment fund this year. We're indebted to Mr. Charlie Steiner for providing us the seed money to begin the endowment fund. Charlie's grandfather was integral in the beginning of the Sparks Fire Department. Charlie's a retired Sparks fireman and a longtime museum supporter. The Truckee Meadows Community College has really helped us out a lot here. The professors there and the students, they created artwork for us and the equipment and the wherewithal and knowledge to do screen printing of t-shirts. Here we have Haley Williams, a local artist. She created that I Heart Sparks Heritage Museum screen print. Mr. Steiner has pledged to match up to $10,000 in funds that we raised this year. And at the end of the year, we're planning on an event to accomplish just that goal. And of course, you'll all be invited. Our future holds many opportunities. We're constantly looking for ways to increase awareness of the museum. We look forward to continuing to serve the community and by giving cultural events and exhibits that are of interest. And of course, we sincerely thank the City of Sparks for your support as you provide the museum. This picture here, the Engine Number 8 art rendition created by local artist Veronica Chapman. The original 16 by 20 will be auctioned at the fundraiser for the endowment fund. With that, I thank you for your time, and we welcome any and all advice the city can provide us on how to do things better at the Sparks Museum and Cultural Center. Do you have any questions or comments for me?
Thanks so much for the update. Any questions? Anyone? Well, thanks for the presentation. You know, there's not many people, well, there's plenty that know about it, but it's really a nice museum. There's quite a few cities our size that would be proud to have something like that in their city. So I'm very thankful to you folks that work over there and help us and volunteer. It's been really a labor of love, and we thank you so much for keeping that thing going. It's really a nice addition to the City of Sparks. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. A lot of good volunteers.
You're welcome, and thank you for the comments.
Thanks. One second, please. Go ahead, Shirley.
I just wanted to echo the mayor's thoughts, and I try to get to as many of your events as I can. I will date myself. I was a little girl that walked all the way down Pyramid Way to your museum that was a library. So any of you who've been around Sparks long enough know that that was the library upstairs, and that Judge Lamberti, Justice of the Peace, was downstairs. And it's phenomenal. And for those of you, and I'm looking for events or things that I would want to rent, the facility upstairs is beautiful, great place to hold special events, and the museum is fascinating to find, to bring your kids or grandkids or people from, local people who haven't discovered it. So I would encourage people to support you, and thank you for you and your board and Kelly and Richard and all the work that you do. I think you guys do a great job.
Thanks. That was the first library I ever went to, was that one upstairs there, yeah.
Well, we're working on creating an archival library downstairs. We have some grants. We're going to start phase 1 at the end of the year.
Yeah, they did have lights too, Ed.
I said the books still have the teeth marks to prove you were there.
Yes. In the audience here, we have a couple of board of trustees members. Kelly Reese, she's our executive director.
Welcome.
Dr. Richard Simmons, he's vice president on the board, and Donald Abbott, he's also on the board.
Oh. Thank you. Okay, next presentation, Sparks Fire Department Project Safe Golf Fundraiser Sponsor Appreciation. Man, if I could only talk, it'd be good. Welcome, Chief. How are you?
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I'm Fire Marshal Bob King for record. Boy, how time flies. This is 10 years now that I've been in front of you to update you on our Project Safe residential smoke alarm program. And it's really been a great 10 years and a very successful 10 years. And I can tell you it's going to keep going, though. This program, for the audience purposes and people that are listening, is a free residential smoke alarm program that we have in the city of Sparks for older homes, any home built prior to 1994. We come out to the home and we'll install smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, and even hearing impaired type of detectors for people that are hearing impaired, and then teach the occupants all about fire safety in their home at the same time. And it's all free to the residents. It's really one of the largest programs, smoke alarm programs that there is in Nevada right now. The American Red Cross has just started a residential smoke alarm program as well, but ours is one of the largest for a community in the city of Sparks. We've educated well over 2,500 adults and children so far, and been into over 1,100 homes with this program. So it's really been a great program for us and for our citizens. With that program, we have to do some type of fundraising to keep the monies coming in to continue to purchase all the smoke alarms and CO detectors. So this is the 7th year that I've been in front of you to talk about a fundraiser. It's a golf fundraiser that I've put on to help raise funds for the program. And who would know that a golf fundraiser would, in over 7 years, raise $72,000 for our program? It's just amazing to me. But I know the people that play and the people that sponsor and donate truly believe in the program. And I can say that at least 3/4 of the players, and we had 128 of them this last time, come back every year because they enjoy supporting this certain program. So it's been fantastic. This year we did net $12,000 for the program. So that money, and so you know, it does specifically go towards public education for our community. For this program and any other public education program that we have in the community, it goes right back out to the community. So it just keeps revolving. This is my opportunity publicly to thank all the businesses out there that have donated gifts and items for our raffle and silent auction, and our sponsors that help sponsor the tournament, because it truly takes businesses to do that for this program to work. We always have an entire table full of raffle prizes, which golfers love, and we have silent auctions, which they love doing that too. So sponsorships, we have everything from, they can sponsor a hole where they get a sign with their name and logo of the business on the sign out there for people to see, or it goes all the way up to a premier sponsor that we have. Premier sponsor pays $3,500 for that sponsorship. Now they get some really good benefits, I'll say, for that as well. They get golfers, and they get marketing for the entire event, banners and on the scorecards and out in the public, everything. So they really get, a lot for the sponsorship. But they are our premier sponsors, and part of their incentive they get, I like to publicly show appreciation to them at a council meeting, like I've done for 6 past years. And I know they like to have a picture with the mayor as well. So this year we had 2 premier sponsors. Once again, and actually these 2 sponsors are ones that have sponsored us for many years. We have ABC Fire and Cylinder Services. They've sponsored us since 2010. And we have Belfour Property Restoration, which has sponsored us since 2012. So we really appreciate the very large sponsorships that we get as well, as the small ones, but it really helps out a lot. And so today I have a representative from each, and with your permission, I'd like to bring him up and present him a plaque and a picture with the mayor. Okay, the first one is ABC Fire and Cylinder Services, and Nick Brown is here for that presentation.
Got all dressed up.
Okay, and for Belfour Property Restoration, we have Michelle Turner.
Questions for Mr. King? Mr. Schmidt, are you still there? Any questions?
I'm here. No, thank you. I'm good.
Okay, I didn't want to wake you up, but I wanted to make sure you were still there.
I appreciate the wake-up call.
Thanks, Ron. Well, Bob, thanks again. I know you're passionate about this. It's a great program for the seniors in the houses, the older houses in our area and stuff. So thanks again for what you do, and it's really a good thing for our community. So thanks again to all of our sponsors and the folks that help you out here. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, let's move on to 7.3, commendations for the Sparks Park Rangers. And I'll go ahead and read the commendation, and then you'll take it over there, Tracy. You want me to? Well, I'll just read the commendation, and then we can hand them out one at a time. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to read them all, okay?
No, just read one.
Just kidding. So I have a commendation for each one of you. There's 10 or 12 of them here. They're all pretty much, well, they're all exactly the same except for whose name's on them. Okay, I'll put it that way. So I'll just read one, and they're all the same, and then I'll come up and hand them out to each one of you. I appreciate you being here, the ones that could. So who's guarding our parks today, Tracy?
We'll have to ask them. They are on duty.
Okay, good. We're going to need some help up here in a minute. Okay, commendation. Whereas Park Ranger so-and-so is employed by the City of Sparks Parks and Recreation Department, and whereas the Park Rangers are invaluable stewards of the Golden Eagle Regional Park and the Sparks Marina Park, and whereas Mr. whomever this one is for, provides the public with information pertaining to park use and interesting features, provides directions, answers to questions, establishes cooperative relationship with facility users, and whereas also provides a positive image, maintains a safe, secure, and friendly environment. Whereas patrols assigned areas by foot, bicycle, vehicle, or other means to promote public safety and prevent damage or vandalism to city property, promotes the proper use of facilities in the compliance with city ordinances and parks policies and procedures, maintains order, provides verbal warnings, and notifies law enforcement when necessary or when dealing with potentially dangerous or emergency situations. And whereas the park rangers do not have citation authority, their daily interactions with customers of all ages and abilities with varying expectations can be challenging at best. They are often overlooked and disrespected by some of the customers they serve. Now, therefore, I, Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, join with the Sparks City Council in commending and thanking park rangers for their continued professionalism and integrity in their service to the Sparks community. Thank you very much. Just one comment before I hand them out. Thank you folks so much. I know it's not an easy job to do. There's some people out there that are, what do I call them, a real piece of work. You know, they don't get it, they don't understand, and you folks are there for their safety, and they just don't get it. I don't understand how ugly people can be sometimes. So, not an easy job for you folks, and I seriously appreciate what you do for us. Thank you very much. So I'm going to hand out the ones that are here, and then I'll do the others.
Stand on up. Stand on up, guys.
Okay, Dino Smearns. Smearns?
Come on down.
Thank you. Come on down.
Come on down, guys.
Come on, guys. Oh, you guys can come on down.
Okay. Ed Rucker. Michael Pierzak. Mike Jacobs, that was easy. Come on down, Mike. Steve Jackson. Rudy Flores. Thanks, Rudy. Bill Bice. Done. Michael Royal. So the ones that are not here, Bill Bice, John Villa, Sharon Nelson, oops, so that's the wrong one, and Ed Sonover. Okay. This is a different, right? That's for next year. So. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Take a picture?
Yep, with all of you.
All ready? All in?
All in. Oh. We're moving. All right. Everyone, 1, 2, 3. Thanks, guys.
That's it.
Yeah, I want to say too from Tracy, from my Rotary group, we have the free fishing day out there, and your park rangers are always great help. And this year, we actually had an incident where your park ranger, he interacted with some people that stay out there quite often, and resolve the situation that could have been escalated very easily. And his relationship and the way he treated these two gentlemen was very professional. I was quite happy that you guys took care of that in such a nice manner. Nobody got arrested, and everybody went on and had a great day because of it. So thank you guys.
Good. I just, Tracy Dominguez, Parks and Recreation Director, thank you, Ed and Gino, for this acknowledgement. I believe our park rangers are unsung heroes. They put up with a lot out there, and they're just trying to do their job. But there's an impression out there that they're to do a lot more for people than what they're there to do. So we try really hard to educate our park users on the rules of the parks and why our rangers are there. So thank you very much to the rangers.
Yeah, the pay is so very high, right? Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Really. Thanks for coming down today. Thank you. Okay, next is 7.3, commendation, summer outburst staff. Hi, Shauna. How are you?
Hi, good, thank you.
Okay, let me read the commendation. Whereas the Summer Outburst Program is provided by the Sparks Parks and Recreation Department to children in 1st through 6th grade during the summer break from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. every weekday. And whereas the staff selected is instrumental in the ongoing success of the fun-themed weekly program that includes arts and crafts, swimming, roller skating, bowling, active and passive games, movies, miniature golf, water slides, special guests, and more. And whereas it is staff's responsibility to ensure the safety of up to 200 children each day, which in turn gives the child's parents the confidence to trust their child in our care. And whereas staff responded calmly and professionally to a first experience of sheltering in place on Thursday, July 28, 2016, at the recreation gym, which was not an easy task with 178 children and minimal details of what was occurring near the front of the facility. Whereas the fast reactions for communications with the families were exceptional. Now, therefore, I, Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, join with the City Council in condemning and thanking all parks and recreation staff for their professionalism and integrity of service to the Sparks community. You truly contribute to the quality of life we all enjoy. Thank you.
We have a few of our staff here.
We'd just like to have those staff that are here with us today to stand up, please. And this is a very small portion of our staff that we have during the summer months. And Shauna, as their supervisor, And we will be getting your own copy out to you. We didn't know how many were going to show up out of 35, so we'll accept it on your behalf and then send you each your own copy.
Nice job. Thank you.
I love to talk on here, you know. I don't know, is this on? Shauna Nelson, Recreation Supervisor. This is just a small portion of the staff that were there the day that we had the incident at the rec center. Of course, I was on vacation. But they did a terrific job of entertaining those kids for 8 hours solid inside one room with 200 kids. And that's not easy to do. And I honestly, I happened to call right after it happened, and there wasn't 1 ounce of panic or anything in their voices. They just knew what they had to do, and they did it. So I have a lot of confidence in them, and I'm really appreciative of.
You know, I can
all the
imagine
work
8
they do.
hours of 178 kids. I have one grandkid for 2 hours that
Right?
drives me insane. So I can imagine 178 for 8 hours.
Yeah, and I'll bet the acoustics are better in your house than they are
I don't
in
know.
the gym.
Not according to him because he didn't listen. So.
Well, yeah. They're hard of hearing, and they did put together a little something for that's for TV, right?
Yes. I'd also like to thank, I've got Melinda Judd and Andre Stiegel in the audience. They were very instrumental in getting a calm message out to all the parents within 10 minutes of the incident. It was very quick, very professional, and we kept a lot of parents pretty calm. Only a couple came down right away to pick up their child, but it was much appreciated. We had 2 great emails from parents that were just so grateful for how we handled the whole situation. Our staff did amazing. The kids did amazing. And again, we've never done this before. And Shauna, luckily we had just done our first shelter-in-place training with Brandon with the Sparks Police Department had just done a great training for our staff, and we had to put it into effect. And if I could, I won't unroll the whole thing, but we have a banner here for Chief Allen. The children did a large banner thanking the police department for keeping them safe, and it has all of their handprints on it.
Ah, great.
So that just thank you for acknowledging our staff and everything they do.
Great staff.
Thank you very
well
much.
deserved. Thank you guys so much. All right, moving on to consent items 8.1 through 8.5. Anybody want to pull a consent item? If not, looking for a motion. Ms. Ratty.
Move to approve the consent items 8.1 through 8.5.
Ms. Bybee.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ratty, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve consent items 8.1 through 8.5. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, Ron. Okay, let's move on to general business, please. 9.1, consideration and possible acceptance of a $10,000 grant from the Helen Close Charitable Foundation. The funds would be applied toward the purchase and training of a new K-9 for the police department. Welcome, Chief.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We have 9.1 and 9.2. With your indulgence, I'll talk about both of them because they're both $10,000 grants we received from 2 different foundations, and then they'll need to be acted upon independently of each other. With that being said, in 2005, we were able to reinstitute our K-9 program, which had been absent in our department for close to 20 years or so. And in that process, we have since had 4 K-9s with 3 different handlers. And most recently, one of the K-9 handlers fulfilled his obligation to the department in the time frames that he set up for that, but the service life of the dog was still available to continue. So rather than trying to go through the process of retraining a valid K-9 with a handler, which is its own problem, and we'd have to spend a lot of these same funds retraining the handler with the dog, we were able to work through the process and allow the officer who is now a crime suppression unit detective, to take the canine with him and use the dog to its fullest capabilities in that new unit on a temporary basis. So we were able to temporarily augment the CSU with a canine, not create a new position. But with that, it did create a void in our canine program on our patrol level working dogs in that process. So over the last course of the last 4 or 5 months, Lieutenant Pete Krall, who oversees the canine program from his lieutenant rank, was able to submit 2 different grants, one to the Helen Close Foundation and one to the E.L. Cord Foundation, requesting funding for the purchase of a new dog and the substantial amount of training that goes into play when we have these canines implemented in patrol. With that, he was able to secure 2 $10,000 grants. The only difference between the 2 of them, for the most part, is the Helen Close Foundation is a reimbursable grant, which means we're going to have to put the money up from the city's point first, and they will write us a reimbursement check at the conclusion or when we show that we have purchased the dog. And the E.L. Cord Foundation just wrote us a check for $10,000. The overall cost to properly train a canine with his handler for both patrol and narcotics detection runs roughly between $35,000 and $37,000. So between the purchase of the dog and the 2 training classes, we're going to be well in excess of the funding. However, through seizure funds, we should be able to minimize the impact to the general fund budget and hopefully actually spend no general fund monies on the bringing in of a new canine to the Sparks Police Department. With that, I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Questions for Chief Allen? Okay, if not, looking for a motion? Ms. Bybee. Mr. Locke?
I move to accept the donation of $10,000 from the Helen Close Charitable Foundation.
Mr. Lawson.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Mr. Lawson to approve 9.1. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Okay, 9.2, any questions on 9.2, similar? Okay, looking for a motion? Mr. Lawson.
I move to accept the $10,000 grant from the E.L. Cord Foundation for the police department.
Ms. Bybee.
I second.
Moved by Mr. Lawson, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve 9.2. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thanks, Chief, and thank you to all those donations. We appreciate them, really. You bet. Okay, let's move on to 9.3, consideration and possible adoption of resolution number 3301, authorizing the transfer of the City of Sparks 2016 state volume bond capacity of $4,890,856.59 to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority single-family programs in the cities of Sparks and other communities. Go ahead, George.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of Council. George Graham, Housing Specialist for the record. Today I'd like to present to you for your consideration myself, and I also have staff of the Nevada Rural Housing Authority to accompany me. Gary Long Eckert, I always get his name right, and Diane would also available to assist. And what I like is our bond capacity cap, consideration for transfer of the bond capacity cap to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority to support and supplement their single-family housing program, which would benefit and has benefited over the years. The Nevada Rural Housing Authority have been a partner in the community and transfer the cap as well as to the Nevada Housing Division in some years. They have contributed a great deal on the affordability and availability of funds for people to get into the home, first-time home buyers in the city of Sparks. And I'd like to invite Diane. I believe Diane's going to be the one.
Diane Arvizo.
Also,
George didn't want me up there because I'll say something about socks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Diane. Just give us your name for the record, please.
My name is Diana Arvizo. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council.
So I'm very.
Anything to add on to George's presentation? Go ahead.
Well, I do have a couple of things. George, there are the two items. Thank you. First, I have to say and commend you all for, this is the warm, fuzziest council meeting I think I've ever attended, ever. I mean, I'm going away feeling really great, so thank you.
That's what we're here for, Diane.
Makes the community feel like family, which ties right into what we do. So with Nevada Rural Housing Authority, as you know, we've been operating the Mortgage Credit Certificate Program in Nevada since 2009. And under the esteemed leadership of Mr. Gary Longacre, we have been working with our cities and counties across Nevada to pool the volume cap so that the unutilized volume cap across the state can be pulled into a program that would benefit home buyers across Nevada. Sparks happens to be the fortunate recipient of the majority of our funds. Roughly about 27 to 28% of all of the volume we do is located right here in your communities. The handouts that were provided to you in the booklets will indicate, actually it was the other page, but we have done roughly in our 10 years doing Home at Last programs, approximately $265 million in the city of Sparks, helping about 1,400 families with homeownership. The Mortgage Credit Certificate Program does refund home buyers a 20% of the mortgage interest they pay on their home for the life of the loan. So it's a pretty incredible program that helps build sustainable home ownership. Governor Brian Sandoval in June proclaimed June Nevada Rural Housing Month because of the significant contributions that we've made, which is a very distinguished honor that we were happy to receive. Also, we received a Single Family Housing Excellence Award this year from the National Association of Local Housing Finance Agencies. Also, a testament to the innovative work that we're doing here in Nevada and how our programs are actually being replicated throughout the nation. So we'd like to thank you for your past support of these programs, because without your contributions, we would not be able to assist the homeowners in your community. So thank you. So you have George, who is a great advocate of our programs, is putting up, this is an example of where the loans are located in Washoe County, primarily around Sparks, for a mortgage credit certificate program alone. So each one of those green little dots, which almost looks like a mountain itself, is an individual family that you have helped through the mortgage credit certificate program. The other page that he's putting up, the blue dots indicate families that we've assisted with our down payment assistance program. That is a non-federally funded program that we use to help people with down payment assistance. We actually compare the down payment assistance program with a mortgage credit certificate program, which is a win-win situation. And for the veterans in your community, they receive the mortgage credit certificate program at no cost. That is a wonderful gift that you help us give back to the veterans in our community. I think that's it, except I would like to add that we are celebrating 10 years of operating the Home at Last programs. When Gary Longacre came to Nevada Rural Housing Authority, it was shortly after that he launched the Home at Last programs with the sole focus of helping to promote, provide, and finance affordable housing. And so we are celebrating 10 years of helping people get into affordable home ownership. So, unless you have any questions.
Questions, yes. Questions for Diane or George?
I think we've provided to you a lot of the statistics that support the program.
I'll just make one comment before Julie asks a question. You know, I need you to be a little more bubbly about this thing. You have
well,
no,
I have to tell you, other than you, I have the best job in the world.
You have no enthusiasm about this program at all. I wish you'd just pick it up a couple of notches, please.
Okay, I'll try harder next time.
Questions from Ms. Ratty?
Can you just give us a sense of what it takes to qualify for the program?
Yes, absolutely. So there are income limits and purchase price limits for home buyers. This is for a low to moderate income family. So the Mortgage Credit Certificate Program is designed to help taxpayers, hardworking individuals who they do have tax liability, but they need a little boost to come back to them. They can afford the mortgage, but having this credit coming back to them helps. So the income limit in Washoe County, I can't quote it right off the top of my head, but it's between 76 and 82 for a family of 2 or 3, and that's the annual income that they can't exceed that amount. And you have to be a first-time home buyer, or if you're a qualified veteran, we can waive the first-time home buyer requirement. And other than purchasing in a qualifying community like Sparks, that's pretty much it.
And so you said that there were some caps on the price of the house too, with the escalating prices. Do we have the inventory that qualifies for your program?
I think it's $307,000 is the purchase price limit currently. It changes annually. And that is actually because it is a federal program. IRS dictates what those will be. So,
are we starting to run out of inventory that will qualify?
no, actually, we're still doing quite well. As you can see by our volume, in our first quarter of 2016, we exceeded our previous year's volume by 200%.
Great.
So
thank you.
we are still able to help many families.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, looking for a motion. Ms. Bybee.
I move to adopt resolution number 3301 to authorize the transfer of the city's 2016 tax-exempt bond volume capacity to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority for the purpose of supplementing their single-family housing programs.
Do we have a second? Ms. Ratty.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Bybee, second by Ms. Ratty. And before I forget, Mr. Schmidt, do you have any questions? I'm so sorry, I forgot to acknowledge it. Anything you want to ask?
No.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm very aware of that program, and I fully support it.
Okay. All right, seeing no further questions, please vote.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. Thanks for all your hard work. Okay, 9.4. Consideration and possible adoption of resolution number 3301, authorizing the transfer of the city of... Yeah, I'm lost in space, so that's okay. How about 9.4? Consideration and possible approval of a contract, AC 5283, for the fiscal year 2016 CDBG 16th and F Street Pedestrian Improvements Project, federally funded bid number 16/17-003, PWP-WA 2016-203, with Sierra Nevada Construction, Inc. in the amount of $373,007. Go ahead, George.
Yes. Good afternoon. Again, it's George Graham, Housing Specialist, City of Sparks. What I'm presenting now is a continuation of efforts that we've had the previous year in this particular area, and we're continuing with the pedestrian improvements, which entails placement of curbs, deteriorated streets and infrastructure, and improvement all of that. This is in accordance with our consolidated plan, which was approved. This is the second program year of our approved consolidated plan, which is from 2015 to 2019. And so it's a continuation of those efforts, which is part of our community development block grant through HUD. So I'm prepared to respond to any questions.
Questions for George,
If
Mr.
there's-
Graham? Anything, Ron? Okay.
No, I'm good, Mayor.
Okay. No questions. Looking for a motion. Ms. Ratty.
I move to approve the contract for fiscal year 2016-2017 CDBG 16th and F Street pedestrian improvements with Sierra Nevada Construction, Inc. in the amount of $373,007.
Second, Mr. Lawson, or Ms. Bybee, I'm sorry.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ratty, seconded by Miss Bybee. You got me confused now, then. To approve 9.4 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thanks, George.
Thank you.
9.5, presentation, discussion, and possible approval of a memorandum of understanding, MOU AC 5284, between the City of Sparks and the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 1265, to add the title of Fire Plans Examiner and Inspector to memorialize the understanding and agreement about the current pay practice for daylight savings. Go ahead, Mindy.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Mindy Falk, Human Resources Manager. Before you today for your approval is a memorandum of understanding between the City of Sparks and International Firefighters Local 1265. The MOU details two different items. The first one is the pay range added to the Appendix A for the Fire Plans Examiner / Inspector. This is within the budget you approved in May and is also part of the new needs you approved for the fiscal year 2017. The second item for your approval is to memorialize the current pay practices for daylight savings. The daylight savings clarification is how the city has been operationally handling daylight savings in our payroll department And both parties believe that this will help the payroll department consistently pay and the union describe pay practices to their membership. This new practice, or the same practice, does not have any, there's no additional pay for spring forward, and there's 1 additional hour for fallback. And because this is our current practice, there is no additional budget cost to this year's fiscal year budget. And with that, any questions?
Questions for Ms. Falk? Ms. Bybee?
Okay, I'm confused now. So on the daylight savings time, the spring forward, that would be short 1 hour.
Right. So
is still paid for that hour?
They do.
And then in the fallback, you get an extra hour?
You do.
So it's a bonus 1 hour that you really didn't work?
So they work 23 hours going in spring.
Right.
And then they get paid for 24.
Okay.
That is currently how we've been doing it, and you're right. They work an extra hour in the fall, so they get an extra hour of overtime for that.
Okay. And
so they do get an hour that they didn't work.
Okay. And is that pretty standard practice among?
Yeah, that is standard in our IAF
Okay.
And throughout our other unions. So there will probably be something similar coming for the other ones, so we all understand how we're paying.
Okay, so with the other unions or other contracts, it's the same?
It is.
And this just needs to be consistent with that?
Yes, and there's questions every fall and spring. The payroll department goes back and makes sure that's how we did it, and then the members of the unions ask us, so we're just trying to get it in the contract so we can all read it and have the same understanding of how it should be paid.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Sure, it's confusing.
Anyone else? Questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Ron.
Question here, is this hour in contention with the plans examiner, or is this with the firefighters?
It is not with the firefighters, but the current inspectors in the fire contract. It's a little bit less because it is a little bit of a different job.
So we have fire inspectors and plans examiners out at 2 a.m. in the morning time on daylight saving time change.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I misunderstood. I thought you were asking about the pay range. No, the daylight savings, if they were to work 24-hour shift, it would apply, but they don't.
Okay, so who works the 24-hour shift would be that this pay for daylight saving times would be applied to?
The firefighters, the fire apparatus operators, and the fire captains.
So the way it works is the daylight savings time, when it jumps ahead, they get paid the hour, but when it goes back, they get an hour of overtime.
So you don't lose the hour, yes, when it jumps ahead, and you get paid the extra hour when it when you fall back.
Okay.
Is that it, Ron?
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, looking for a motion. Hello, Ms. Reddy.
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding with the International Association of Firefighters, local number 1265.
Have a second? Ms. Bybee.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Ratty, seconded by Ms. Bybee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thanks, Mindy.
Thank you.
Okay, 9.6, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the mayor's recommendations of 5 two-year term appointments to the Arts and Cultural Advisory Committee for the City of Sparks. Ms. Burge, go ahead.
Good afternoon. I am Francine Burge, Special Event Supervisor. I am here with the mayor to put forth 4 individuals for our new Arts and Culture Commission. I'm excited that not only do these individuals represent 3 important disciplines, which are visual arts, performing arts, and the humanities, but they also represent different demographics of youth, the disabled community, and Native Americans. So with that, I will, we do have one person that we're bringing forward that has called to let us know that she's not going to be able to accept, so we are going to go forward with the 4 and make an announcement to get the 5th person at the next, at an upcoming city council.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and explain that. We have first of all, Francine and Tracy and I met and went over all the applications and kind of set them in each category, and then from there, looking at the recommendations and at the credentials that they had, picked these particular candidates. So the ones I'm putting forward for 2 members in performing arts, one is Stephanie Ferris. The other one is Denise Daniels, who called and said she's had a personal agenda that she couldn't, was not able to dedicate as much time as she thought to this particular board. So we're going to make an announcement and put that out again for more applications for that particular one. It's for someone with performing arts backgrounds. The other 2 members were with visual arts backgrounds, and the ones we appointed are Eileen Gay and Melissa Malero Moose. And then we had 1 member we wanted to appoint with humanities background, and we only had 1 that applied and was in that category, and that's Christina Barr. So the 4 that we're going to put forward today are Stephanie Ferris, Eileen Gay, Melissa Malero Moose, and Christina Barr. So those are the ones we're looking to appoint. Are any of those folks here with us today? Okay, that's fine. I told them they didn't have to be here, but, so, questions? Any questions from the council? Okay, if not, looking for a motion. Oh, one other thing. 1 non-voting member assigned by Parks and Recreation Director will be Francine Burge. So, Mr. Lawson.
I move to confirm the mayor's recommendations to the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee.
Second, Ms. Bybee.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lawson, seconded by Ms. Bybee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thanks, Francine.
Thank you very much.
It's time we got a cultural committee going together, and you know, I'm looking for big things. The council has funded, I believe, $150,000 to get them started. Is that not correct, Mr. Driscoll?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The 150 that you note is from the infrastructure work that's down on the square part of the room tax. There are some other funds that have been approved by the Parks and Recreation Commission prior, and those accumulate based on rental activities, so there's a little bit more than that. The main thing we'll do now is we'll create a plan as to where we're going, and then the money will follow in behind that, and then we'll be talking about future years as we make budget decisions.
Great, so thanks for everyone that pushed for an arts council, Julia, and Charlene probably, because you're 2 women, and us guys, we don't have a clue about arts.
We can't
right?
appreciate it.
Yeah, we can't appreciate any art. But thanks everyone who was involved in it, and it's something we've needed for a long time and have wanted to do it. And I'm sorry, Tracy, it's, you know, I'm just a dumb old farmer from Sparks. What do I know about art? Come on.
We'll work on you.
Look what I'm wearing here for city council. Come on. But anyway, thanks to everybody. It's a good step forward. So thanks everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to 9.7, consideration and possible approval of a proposal to implement paramedic level emergency medical service in the Sparks Fire Department. Mr. Garrison and Mr. McDonald, welcome.
Mayor Martini, City Council. For the record, Tom Garrison, Fire Chief. With me today is Ed McDonald. Ed is a 13-year veteran of the Sparks Fire Department. He's also a training captain, the department's EMS coordinator, and he's also paramedic certified. Before you today is a proposal to implement paramedic level emergency medical care in the Sparks Fire Department. I would characterize this as one of the most important public safety questions that the fire department's brought to City Council in quite some time. Paramedic level service has the ability to positively change hundreds, if not thousands, of EMS calls each year. You know, a decision of this magnitude needs to be based on data and solid, reliable data. Captain McDonald and I have spent a considerable amount of time in the last 6 to 8 months analyzing this
proposal, trying to determine what's the most appropriate medical level of service to have in our community. And our presentation today will deliver that data as well as the recommendations of our analysis. So before we get into the data, it's important to understand the type of EMS system that we're part of in this region. And it's a two-tiered system. It was actually designed in 1986. It was designed with the first tier, basically the first responders to EMS calls, being the fire departments. And the reason for that was fire departments were strategically placed, usually within 4 minutes of most homes in the city. The fire departments would provide rapid initial care, get the patient ready for transport, and then the second tier would come in, REMSA, who provided the ambulance service. They would do the transport, and they would provide paramedic level service. The benefits of this program are a couple. First, it allows the community to take advantage of strategically placed fire resources so that we could get there quickly. And it also allows REMSA to have a longer response time, and a longer response time results in fewer ambulances needed. Basically, fewer ambulances needed, in theory, results in keeping transport costs to the lowest possible. It's also important to understand the history of EMS in the Sparks Fire Department and how it's changed over time. In 1986, we were providing first responder treatment, which was basically bleeding control, some splinting, spinal immobilization, and oxygen. At that time, we were running about 45% of our calls as EMS. In 1996, we became EMD certified, basically allowing us to use defibrillators. And at that time, our call volume was up to 60% EMS. In 2000, we went to advanced EMT. This allowed us to start IVs, do some advanced airway interventions, and to deliver some limited medications. By that time, we were up to 74% EMS. And today, we're exploring being paramedic. Right now, we're running over 80% of our calls as EMS. Last year alone, last fiscal year, we ran over 10,000 EMS calls in the city of Sparks. So when the city manager approached me and said, hey, is there a need to have paramedics in the fire department? I knew I had to answer a basic question, and that was there an opportunity for the fire department to deliver paramedic care if they were trained and authorized to do so? And to be able to answer that question, I needed to know the answer to three things. This would only be true if the fire department got there first. It would only be true if we had to wait for REMSA. And it would only be true if the calls where we got there first and waited were urgent. I had actually thought about this question for a number of years. But never did I have the availability to answer those three questions. The data just wasn't there with the way that we kept records in the Sparks Fire Department. This changed with the new franchise agreement and the oversight program in Washoe County. I was now able to get not only the Sparks Fire Department's response data, but REMS's response data, and do a comparison. So first off, do we get there first? Well, I studied data for a 15-month period of time, from January 1st, 2015 through March 31st, 2016. And in that time period, 11,017 calls occurred where both Sparks Fire Department and REMSA responded and arrived on scene. Out of those 11,017 calls, we arrived on scene first 6,656 times. 60.4% of the time, we arrived there first. So, it proved that we arrived there first, but did we have to wait? So I took those 6,656 calls and subtracted one time from the other and found out that the average wait time for fire personnel on scene waiting for REMSA was an average of 3 minutes and 22 seconds, with the longest time of over an hour, hour and 9 and 25 minutes, or 25 seconds. And interestingly enough, in that 15-month period of time, 912 times we waited between 5 and 10 minutes, just over twice a day, and 360 times we waited more than 10 minutes, almost once a day. So I found out we're getting there first, okay, and we're waiting in sometimes significant amounts of time, okay, but really, who cares? Okay, we get there first, we wait, who cares? Okay, it's only important if the medical emergency we're waiting on is urgent. Sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. I also found out that our wait times increased as we moved away from the core of the city. You can see the purple there is District 5, the Wingfield area. Our average wait time is almost 5 minutes. Down in the core, we waited about 3 minutes. So the further you got away from the core of the city, the longer we had to wait. So to determine if we were waiting on urgent EMS calls, I cross-referenced the data that I had with our patient care reports. And basically, I was looking at the provider primary assessment. And this is the care provider's assessment of the chief complaint based on the patient assessment. And I found that 2,727 times out of that 6,656, so just over 40% of the time, we were waiting on what I categorized as urgent calls. Some of these calls were cardiac related. We waited 408 times in that 15-month period of time on cardiac calls. Respiratory related, we waited 352 times. Stroke and altered level of consciousness, 668 times we waited in that 15-month period. And for trauma, 886 times we waited for REMSA for trauma calls. So finally, I was able to say, hey, we're arriving there first. We're waiting for REMSA to arrive routinely. Over 40% of those calls where we wait are urgent. And in my opinion, those 2,727 calls represented opportunities where we could make a difference in patient care. To my surprise, I thought this was going to be it. I proved my case. But to my surprise, I found out that a key piece of information was missing. We might get on scene and get in position to deliver paramedic level care, but is it necessary to do so immediately? Can't we just wait for REMSA to arrive? So in other words, was there medical justification for this type of care to be provided immediately on the arrival of the first responder, whether it be fire or REMSA? I didn't have the expertise to answer that question, so that's when I reached out to Captain McDonald, who's a paramedic, and he's our EMS coordinator.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, council members. For the record, Ed McDonald, Sparks Fire Training Captain and EMS Coordinator. Through this process, as Chief Garrison said, I was tasked with answering question number 4 in your staff report, basically through the evaluation of medical recommendations and standards of care, whether upgrading to the paramedic level would be appropriate and have a positive impact. And based on the information I'll share with you, I believe it would. But understanding where we came from since the year 2000, as with most things, times have changed, technology has changed, and that made its way into medicine, and the technology integrated its way into EMS as well. What's important to note there is it has greatly impacted the paramedic scope of practice and broadened that scope, whereas our current level, our advanced EMT level, has remained in relatively the same place. And that creates what I call the gap between the two care level providers, but I view that gap as the opportunity to positively affect outcomes by upgrading to the paramedic level of service. The second piece of that we looked at was standards of care, and those have changed again over time. More standards of care have come, and specifically looking at timelines between early recognition of certain medical emergencies and definitive treatment at the hospital have come in over the last decade and a half, and we're going to talk about those as well. Understanding where we are, currently we're at the advanced EMT level, so we can do everything the basic EMT can do with limited set of advanced skills that include 8 medications common to EMS, IV access, some limited advanced airway procedures, a little bit more education as far as assessing the medical patient. And where are we looking to go? To the paramedic level, which includes the basic EMT skill set, the advanced EMT skill set, but it couples that with more invasive, more technical, and more time-sensitive skills. The big hitters there are the cardiac care, which includes the cardiac monitor and defibrillator capabilities, expanded pharmacology, so an expanded medication list and routes of medication, and as well as more advanced airway techniques, a wider range to manage a patient's airway, which is often a priority. Establishing, maintaining, and securing an unstable patient's airway is often the priority in a medical emergency. So that wide range becomes a benefit, the wider range of options and skill level. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper in here. If you look at the national scope of practice, the paramedic skill set adds about 20 additional skills, and I'm just going to highlight some of the skills and technologies that the paramedic can take advantage of. The first one is 12 lead EKG. In the year 2000, this is part of that gap, when we went to the advanced EMT level, 12 lead EKG was not widely used in EMS. Now I think you could safely say it's a cornerstone of EMS. And I'll hit that in a few more slides. End-tidal CO2 monitoring would come with the technology in our cardiac monitors. Again, a technology that has come into EMS over the last 5 to 10 years. A wide range of uses in managing a patient's airway as well as assessing a patient. Again, opening up the options on the defibrillator, manual defibrillation, synchronized cardioversion, transcutaneous pacing, and the vagal maneuvers all have to do with dealing with different cardiac dysrhythmias, electrical disturbances in the heart. Currently, we have an AED on our apparatus similar to what you would find here at City Hall. These options allow the paramedic to interpret the rhythm and provide the right treatment, the right protocol through the cardiac monitor. And lastly, the technology that also comes with that monitor is immediate CPR feedback, meaning it will tell you if your compression rate when you're doing resuscitation efforts is too slow or too fast. And we've found, and the AHA has identified the optimum rates of compressions, for example. And the data piece, you take that monitor back home, you download the data, and now you can see the call. One of the other things that the American Heart Association emphasizes is minimizing interruptions in chest compressions. So what that data piece would allow us to do is take that monitor back, look at that incident and say, hey, we had a lapse in compressions at point X in this call, and mitigate why that happened. Quality assurance, to go back and make sure we're improving and providing the best service. We move over to the airway piece. These are some big words here, but endotracheal intubation, needle cricothyrotomy have to do with securing a patient's airway who is unable to secure their own and may not have one for whatever reason. The needle thoracentesis has to do with dealing, the common term would be a collapsed lung. Gastric tube placement has to do with evacuating the contents of the stomach so they don't come out and compromise the airway. And CPAP, you may have heard of CPAP, continuous positive airway pressures. Again, not a new technology, but new to EMS. It's made its way to EMS. It's been found to be beneficial in patients with certain respiratory complaints. And turning around outcomes. And I want to just talk about, when I use that word outcomes a lot, it'd be really easy to say it means life and death, and it does not mean that. The CPAP, for instance, can, if given early enough, can keep patients from being intubated and being admitted to the ICU or the hospital, which might mean coming out with a similar standard of life, per se, coming out on less medications and less fiscal impact from being admitted to the hospital for that long. So while those outcomes are hard for us to measure, the medical community is certainly concerned with them, and it's a place where we may be able to have an impact. And I'm going to touch on the medications on the next slide. It opens up the list of medications and the routes of medications we can give. If we were to adopt a similar list of medications that our paramedic partners in the region use, we would go from 8 medications to approximately 38 medications. 13 of those would be cardiac medications that we don't currently have. 4 would be pain management medications, an option we don't currently have. And then medications to either deal with emergencies we don't have the ability to now or can't go as far in the protocol as we'd like to. So seizures, pregnancy problems, respiratory emergencies, altered level of consciousness, which would include behavioral issues. But what's nice about the list is we can tailor that to our community. There is certainly standards nationwide, but we can also tailor that list to our community to be most effective. I'm I'm going to move off the scope of practice now and the gap and talk about standards of care and some of the things we identified. So the term STEMI is a term used in the medical community to identify certain type of heart attack. And it's identified through the use of a 12-lead EKG monitoring strip, looking for patterns in that strip. Again, a term that wasn't being used really in the year 2000. Medicine has evolved, but it's certainly evolved at a fast pace. And now STEMI is a big deal in EMS systems. The early recognition of a STEMI in those heart attacks to definitive treatment at the hospital is a measurable key performance indicator. And the American Heart Association says that EMS systems should strive to reduce that time by as much as possible. There is no threshold. They say the more you can reduce that time, the better, and it has a direct relation to short-term and long-term outcomes. So that's a key measurable piece, but it also is very beneficial. The 12-lead is very beneficial on scene and providing the most appropriate care to the patient and would allow us to change our protocols. Not all heart attack, cardiac events present the same. They're not created equally, and they don't present typically all the time either. So the 12-lead would allow us to maybe capture myocardial infarction that would otherwise go unrecognized potentially by the EMS provider, but it also, once we identify it, would allow us to provide the most appropriate treatment. Currently, if we have a chest pain patient, they get the same protocol, patient A, patient B. Whereas with the 12-lead, identifying the anatomy of the heart that might be being affected, we can tailor our treatments to be most effective. And strokes are similar to the STEMI in that a key performance indicator in EMS systems is early recognition of the stroke to definitive treatment at the hospital. And that actually was in place prior to the STEMI time frames, but still important and still an area where I think through assessment of the paramedic and transition of care to the transporting paramedic, we can improve that time frame. Airway management. This one I think everybody can wrap their brain around. Brain death can occur as early as 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen. That wider range of skill set to manage and stabilize that airway that comes with the paramedic, whether it be on the fire engine or be on the ambulance, as long as it's there, whoever's there first, has the potential to affect that positive outcome. And lastly, pain management. Again, I mentioned it earlier, we don't really have an option to treat our patients for pain. Pain management's become a big deal in the hospitals. They measure the performance on pain management, and that's making its way into EMS. But we don't have the option. I'll use the maybe the hip dislocation patient or the hip fracture patient to treat and manage this patient's pain. And oftentimes they're in a precarious position and they will not tolerate movement until we can treat that pain. If we had the ability to treat their pain, which would allow us to package them sooner, we could initiate transport sooner. So all the way through, I think it provides for better patient care. But there's also an efficiency piece there, and I think you could use that efficiency piece throughout what we've identified here. If we can initiate these treatments sooner and transport sooner, the resource time is more efficient. That fire engine will become available to the system sooner, that ambulance will transport sooner and become available back into the system sooner. So there's efficiency piece throughout. Many of these things, we didn't just grasp at a couple of them. I want you to understand these are core measures and quality assurance criteria in other EMS systems where we think we can make improvements. There's certainly more measurable pieces. There's certainly more benefits that aren't exactly measurable, some intangibles that I think would benefit the community. But ultimately, that's what it's about, patient care, and I think we can have a positive effect.
So I think we've demonstrated that we get there first, we wait, calls are urgent, and there's a medical justification to provide this level of care almost immediately upon arrival of those first responders. But are there other reasons? Are there other maybe non-medical reasons to consider this program? And the first one is enhanced automatic aid with Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District. Now, because we're both on the Tiburon CAD system now, we have a shared CAD system with Truckee Meadows, we have the ability finally to, with correct programming and correct agreements, to end the duplication of resources sent to automatic aid calls and to also dispatch those resources quicker. And so the ability to do that would result in 3 big benefits for the city of Sparks, not only for the city of Sparks, but for the Sparks Fire Department. The first one is it would provide the city additional time to plan and fund for Fire Station 6. Now, as we grow into the northwest part of Sparks, there's no fire station out there, and that area is well outside of our 4-minute response zones. Sooner or later, we're going to have a fire station out there, okay? But we have not collected any impact fees for that fire station yet, nor is the budget in a position to account for the additional staffing of firefighters. Now, we've approached Truckee Meadows to cover that area, and they've agreed, as long as they can handle the increased call volume, because they're running calls in their own area. So the longer they can handle calls into that area before Fire Station 6 is needed, the more time it gives the city of Sparks to collect impact fees and to let the budget rebound to be able to pay for additional staffing. Last year, there were 368 auto aid calls between the Sparks Fire Department and Truckee Meadows Fire Department, EMS calls, just EMS. 2 fire engines went, one from Sparks and one from Truckee Meadows. With enhanced auto aid, only one of those fire engines would have to go, which would effectively reduce the call volume for both us and Truckee Meadows by 180 calls a year. Way to break up my... Way to go. So, reducing call volume will effectively allow Truckee Meadows to handle that area a longer period of time, allow us more time to plan for Fire Station 6. The second benefit it provides is an argument against consolidation. We may face this again next spring. Okay? Enhanced Auto A demonstrates that neighboring fire departments can work well together and provide efficient and effective fire services without the need for full consolidation. And the third argument is cost savings. If we're reducing our call volume, we're going to reduce fuel costs, we're going to reduce apparatus wear and tear, and we're also going to be more available for concurrent calls because one of us is always going to be available if only one engine's going. So what's holding it up? Okay, Truckee Meadows wants to do enhanced automatic aid. What's holding it up? They're staffed with paramedics, we're staffed with advanced. And there will be a number of times where a Sparks fire truck will go into the county and handle an EMS call by themselves. Now, the citizens of Washoe County, they pay for and expect paramedic level service when a fire truck arrives. TM staff are concerned that if they move forward with this enhanced automatic aid agreement and we provide advanced EMT service, they're actually agreeing to provide lesser level of EMT service to their citizens. And for that reason, this enhanced automatic aid will not go until and if we go paramedic. The second reason, non-medical reason, is for a backup plan to deliver paramedic level care. In the past 15 months, REMS have filed for exemption status 8 times. And also in that time period, they ran out of ambulances, and Story County actually responded in the city of Sparks. Now, exemption status is allowed by the franchise agreement. It's usually because of extreme weather or system overload. But by having paramedic level service in the Sparks Fire Department, we can ensure that a paramedic is arriving on scene with the first responder, and no matter what the emergency, that first responder will have the skills to take care of it. And the last, City of Sparks is a full-service city. I'm going to basically apologize to you right up front. This is not what I wanted to write. I wrote it politically. What I really needed to say was, the City of Sparks is trying to be the city of choice. Okay, that's our vision. That's your vision. Okay, and I was very proud of this vision. I heard it about 2 years ago. I bought into it hook, line, and sinker. And for me, it meant that people would choose to live in the city of Sparks by the way that the city is run, by the services we deliver. And I spent a lot of time trying to think, how can the fire department have an impact on the city of choice? basically, why would people want to move to Sparks just because of the Sparks Fire Department? And one area I was always concerned with was our level of EMS delivery. Point of fact, we're the only fire department in northern Nevada that does not provide paramedic level service. Now, I don't think that I would present to you a case where I want to keep up with the Joneses. I think you know me better than that. But I really do believe that the citizens of Sparks deserve access to the best emergency medical care possible, the same access that their counterparts in Reno and Washoe County are getting. So, based on the medical reasons, based on the other 3 reasons I've given you, I believe that there are numerous opportunities to improve patient care. The 3 other reasons also support the paramedic program. Fire staff, we're recommending implementation of paramedics in the fire department to try to ease some concerns that I heard initially. We've presented 2 implementation plans, a Plan A and a Plan B. Either would be acceptable to the fire department. One is very scheduled, very expensive. 2, longer term, a lot easier to accept financially. So with that, I think that you guys should know that even though there's other reasons, non-medical, for me, it's always been about patient care. Okay, I'll stand by that. I think this is a program that is needed in our community. I think it's going to have positive impacts, hundreds if not thousands of times a year. So with that, I'd entertain any questions.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Questions? Ms. Ratty.
Actually, a couple comments, if you would oblige me. I wanted to just take a minute in my role as on the Board of Health, as the Vice Chair of the Board of Health, to introduce a few folks who are in the audience and to highlight a few things that our Fire Chief shared that I think are progress that we've been able to make because of the 2 things, the renegotiation of the franchise agreement as well as the implementation of the interlocal agreement for an EMS oversight authority. So the first thing I just wanted to acknowledge that we have 2 District Board of Health members in the audience. We have our own representative, John Novak, sitting in the back there, and then we have a representative who was appointed by the City of Reno, Michael Brown. So thank you for coming today to listen to this item. Also wanted to point out that we have Christina Conti and Brittany Davis. They are 2 employees of the Washoe County Health District whose positions didn't exist until we created this EMS oversight function. And so, again, with my role on the Board of the Health, sorry, not meaning to step on the Chief, just that I wanted to make sure that you knew that they were here, and then to highlight the things that we all worked on together as a city council to get to a place where we had more regional cooperation and to get to a place where we had a renegotiated franchise and an oversight body allowed for a couple of things, these Tiburon systems that are talking to each other so that we can get that level of communication, but more importantly, the access to the data that allowed for this kind of an analysis to happen so that we could be making this decision based on facts and data and insight that come from that data rather than he said, she said kinds of conversations that happened in the past. So I'm just super proud of that. I'll note that the Board of Health is here, or sorry, the Health District serves in an advisory capacity only, does not have an opinion on this in one way or another, but did take a second look review of the data. We appreciate the extra time to be able to do that and have sent a letter to the city acknowledging that it was a good analysis. So congratulations to our team for doing such a thorough, clearly thorough investigation into the issue. And I'm just super excited as a governing board member for both the Board of Health and the City of Sparks to have data.
I hate to interrupt you, but I've got to take off for just a second.
Okay.
I will not make any decision. Run the meeting to hear.
Oh, great.
She's going to take over for me for 1
And I'm in charge.
I'll be right back.
Thanks, Gino.
Hurry back.
Yeah, right. That was great. Perfect. That was your first mistake. So I don't mean to go on, but it was years and years and years and years of work to get there, right? And so I'm going on and on a little bit because now we're actually starting to see the results. I mean, it was one thing to sign some agreements and to move forward, but now we're starting to see the results, which is the ability to do this kind of work. So with that, I will go ahead and open it up to see if anybody else has any additional questions. So I don't have the list, so I'll just go with Councilman Lawson.
I want to ask Jeff to come down here real quick. Jeff Kronk, our finance director. And this line of questioning that I'm going to just tell you right up front, it's all about the money for me. I agree this is a great program, and I can't see not doing it. However, where were we at before the recession hit as far as our general fund budget? What was the number, like in 2006, 7?
Jeff Kronk, Financial Services Director, for the record. Are you talking about total expenses or, I'm sorry, in what
our
regard?
budget, our general fund, what was the balance of that general fund right before the recession?
The general fund balance was
Yeah.
about $9.6 million before the recession hit. And since then, it's been.
ending fund balance.
Not the ending fund
I'm
balance.
sorry, so.
So
I'm
the
not
Total,
following.
yeah, all expenses.
Total expenses, we were in the low to mid 50s during the recession. 50 million, sorry.
So we were at 50 million in 2006?
Prior to the recession, is what you're asking.
Yes.
Correct? Okay, so, no, prior to the recession, we were almost where we're at now, in the low to mid 60s.
Okay.
Then we cut it way down during the recession.
Down into the high 40s.
Low 50s is really what it was, and now we're back up to about where we were some 10 plus years ago.
Okay. So maybe it's not as bad a pill to swallow then. My problem is that we're basically back where we were 10 years ago. We haven't grown
Correct.
any. We've given 2 raises since 2008 to our employees, which are not keeping up with inflation. So we're actually going backwards on our salaries across the board, fire, police, everybody else. And I'm assuming we're not doing this for free. If you become a paramedic, you're going to want more money, which would make sense, which I would expect to pay too. But we're so far behind right now, I just don't know how we catch up. And the way our tax system is set up, we're not going to get caught up anytime in the near future on the property taxes, especially. Sales taxes will probably have an impact for us. But property taxes, I mean, we could be 20 more years before we get back to where we were pre-recession. So paying for this thing is a big deal for me, Chief, and I agree, because I'm one of your cardiac guys, and if you guys show up at my house, I want you to be able to save my life. But at the same time, I got to figure out how to pay for all this too. So I'm definitely leaning more towards Plan B, and let's just see how it kind of goes. It's a tough decision for me. I don't know why, but it's all about the money, and making that decision for better outcomes is a good idea, and it's obviously makes a lot of sense. But it also, we got to pay for it. And then I just had a quick question. Are there any insurance ramifications for the city of Sparks if we're now providing paramedic level care?
We did ask that question of Dan Marin.
Okay.
And he did check the risk policy for the city, and the increase was very, very minimal. He came back with an estimation of $500 a year after speaking with the insurance, which kind of surprises me. It seemed like it would be more, these interventions are a lot more invasive, but that's what he came back with.
Okay. And in your Plan B too, Chief, how do you anticipate doing that? As far as how many paramedics would you bring on right away? I see we got a first year cost of $85,000 round numbers.
Well, the first year cost is just standing the program up, working on the protocols, acquiring the equipment, doing refresher training with our current complement of paramedics. There are currently 15 paramedics in the Sparks Fire Department that maintain their license but can't practice because we're not licensed to provide that service. So
that license is being provided in this $85,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. After that initial stand-up, if you would, the cost per year is about the cost, just a hair more than one additional firefighter. It's in the 118. I don't have it in front. I don't want to go diving for it, but it was it's minimal cost, and as we add additional engines, the additional cost per year to maintain the program would be roughly $35,000 a year to maintain it. So that would go up until all the engines were paramedic, at which time the yearly ongoing cost would be about $250,000, okay? But that would be spread out over the next 5 to 10 years, okay? What we would do in Plan B, instead of spending a lot of money training personnel, we would wait for attrition to get new paramedics. Now, at the end of the year, we're anticipating 4 vacancies. We have 2 now. I'm a third.
Soon to be a vacancy.
We have another one kind of rumored in December. So that would give 4 new firefighters that we would go out and we would hire paramedics. And for about every 5 paramedics, we could contemplate adding another additional engine company to the paramedic.
When you say you're hiring a paramedic, you're hiring a firefighter with a paramedic?
Yes, a firefighter with paramedic.
Okay, we're not just a paramedic.
No,
So that was one of my questions. What if we just hired paramedics?
Well, we would probably hire paramedics and teach them how to be firefighters.
Okay.
But they would be firefighter paramedics, yes. They get to be on a hose line every once in a while.
Good.
So,
Okay. Go ahead. No, I'm, like I said, I'm still struggling with this. You know, when we had our first conversation, I was struggling with it, and I still am. So, but Plan B is definitely more palatable, and I agree with you. We do need to be on par with the other cities, other city and county. So, I mean, it's inevitable. We're going to end up there. Are we going to end up there today? I don't know that we can do it today, but it's a tough decision for me. Thank you.
so Mr. Lawson has had an opportunity to have questions. Ms. Bybee and Mr. Schmidt have not.
I have a question on the Plan B. When you say, it says here, it'll be over a much longer period of time. So what do you envision approximately? I know not an exact number. How long are we talking compared to Plan A, which would be within a year?
No, Plan A would have been 5 years.
Okay.
You know,
Oh,
to spread
that's
the
right.
cost out to train people, it would have been over 5 years.
Okay.
With attrition as our only way of gathering new paramedics, I'm guesstimating 7 to 10 years.
Okay.
But that's a wild guesstimate. It just depends on attrition, people retiring.
Second part of that question is, how does both of these scenarios, if you're looking at 5 years or 7 to 10 years, how does that affect or jeopardize the enhanced automatic aid that we're looking at with Truckee Meadow Fire that we don't have, what you spoke about earlier? Is it going to jeopardize that? And would that justify, for me, that's a huge issue. And also that also helps, like you said, not only the quality of care, but some costs would go down for both, because you wouldn't have double engines responding if you had the paramedics on both. So it kind of would offset a little bit, but does it jeopardize that agreement?
It does not. That was a discussion that Fire Chief Moore and I had together quite some time ago, and he understood that we would not be able to implement paramedics across the board. It was just fiscally impossible for this city to do that. One of the reasons I picked District 4 and District 5 wasn't just because of the long wait times. It was also because 74% of the automatic aid calls occur in those 2 areas, District 4 and District 5. Okay, so if we stood it up there first, 3 out of every 4 calls that we go into Truckee Meadows would be covered by those engines. Okay, and Chief Moore told me that if we could stand it up in those 2 areas, he would implement the enhanced automatic aid agreement at that time. Okay, our 3rd engine is, projected as engine 21, and another 14% of our automatic aid comes from that engine. So with those 3 engines, 90% of the time we're going into Truckee Meadows to provide automatic aid would be provided by paramedic level firefighters. So yeah, it would not delay it, but he even actually went as far to say that if we had a plan to implement it, he would consider doing enhanced automatic aid early, but I think I would encourage him to wait. I think that would be kind of a political, difficult, explanation to make to his constituents, to be quite honest with you.
I have a question for Jeff as far as budget-wise with Plan A. Because I absolutely agree with Councilman Lawson that the cost is a tough one to swallow. How fiscally can we work this out? Is it doable for us? Is it a reasonable request that you think we are within the means to budget it and to do? Because the other side of it sells the case of why. But the fiscal side of it, can you help me with that?
Sure, absolutely. Again, Jeff Kronk, Financial Services Director for the record. It's really just about like any other decision we might make. This really comes down to resource allocation. It's going to cost money, A or B. I mean, really, it doesn't matter, how you're going to, spread this out over the course of time. It really comes down to it will cost funds. Which means that there will be less resources to go somewhere else or to some other program or staffing need or what have you. But ultimately, it's a policy decision. So is it something that we will roll into the budget process if this is approved? Absolutely. If it's not approved, the resources that would be needed would be freed up, if you will, or available for other needs within the city. So. I mean, I'm not trying to dodge, the question or anything, but it really is a policy decision that that comes down to basic resource allocation. There's only so many resources available, and it's a decision that this council needs to make. Do you want to spend those resources towards this process? Will we, make it work? Absolutely. Just like any other decision that we would.
Okay.
I don't know if that helps or.
And if I can, Mr. Mayor, just. I guess just overall comments as far as how, thank you, first of all, for all the work and all the data. I'm best making decisions when I've got a lot of facts, and you provided lots of information for us, and all the numbers absolutely point to the need for us having paramedics to come into the technology of everything from, and in my other job, we're trained on an airplane to do basic, basic medical help because we need to. But what I'm really looking at is the service to the community, especially as we grow, and more importantly, especially as we age. All of us baby boomers that are that huge group are all only getting older every day, and you look at the increased health issues that we face and the health crisis that our country is in and our community is in, and the need for intervention, the need for quick intervention, the need for those services. And I've got my mom in life care right now because we've been dealing with a lot of health issues. And I really am looking at everything that the health system has had to, adjustments that they're making and trying to be more proactive because it's so costly and it's so burdensome to our society today that getting immediate paramedic aid and avoiding longer hospital stays or saving lives, but also the long term of what that means and what that means to all of our residents of our community and the businesses coming here, and whether it's somebody's kid who gets injured out at at a baseball park out at Golden Eagle, or someone having a heart attack, being able to respond quickly and with the and especially since that's the majority of your calls are EMS calls. The reality for fire is the importance of that, and I think as we continue to grow as a community, the stress on our medical system or medical services becomes greater and greater, and that's a responsibility I think we have to do everything we can to address that. And I think, despite it's a tough fiscal decision to make, but I think the bottom line is that I do support it. I think it's in servicing we can look at other things, and hopefully we can look at the legislature and get them to get their act together and do something for us on the fiscal side of things, because the cities are hurting, but more importantly, our citizens are, our residents are, and we can do better. And I think the legislature can do better for us, and I think that we can do better by providing this service. So I do I do support it. And thank you for your work and for the information today. Thanks.
Is Mr. Schmidt waiting?
He hasn't chimed in yet.
Mr. Schmidt, questions?
Thank you, Mayor. I think I'm okay right now. I may chime in here as we go along, but I'm okay right now.
Okay, Ms. Reddy?
Because your presentation was so thorough, all the questions are for Jeff.
I'll have to borrow your technique. You're good.
So I see it as an opportunity cost, right? So if we choose to do this, much like you said, we can't choose to do other things. And so can you quantify, at least by recent trends? And I understand that in the last many years there's been a lot of volatility, so those trends are not, hopefully not what we're looking at going forward. But at least in the recent trends, as we've seen this recovery, if we approve this, and I think we're all leaning towards Plan B, so let's talk about Plan B. If we approve this, typically when we do a major enhancement to the budget, if you will, a new allocation, we do it during the budget process. There's a list, and as council members, we can look at a menu. And so we know, not that it's a competition, but we can compare the merits of the needs that have been brought forward by all the departments. What I'm looking to find out is how much of our ability to invest in anything within the city gets absorbed by this initiative alone. Certainly hoping it wouldn't make us cut anything else, but will there still be remaining funds to be able to look at new needs for the council's budget processes in the next couple of years if we're doing this?
I wish I could answer
and I know
that.
it's not a crystal ball, but trend-wise,
Yeah.
I mean, like about how much have we gained? I mean, from Mr. Lawson's line of questioning, we know we've gone from about 52 to about 62 recently. So if we continue to be somewhere in that ballpark,
Right.
does this eat up the whole growth pattern?
The areas of growth that we're seeing right now, you had mentioned property taxes is really not a place where we're going to see a lot of growth because of the laws that are in place. We'll see a little bit from new development, from once they're added to the books. So really our growth area, if you will, is going to be coming from sales taxes. And we've had a nice rebound, if you will, since it bottomed out at the recession. So that looks to continue, at least for the short term. I mean, like you said, that crystal ball only goes out so far. But at least for the short term, it looks like this area is adding jobs at a decent pace. There is economic activity, which is still growing. So we expect over the next, and I say we, I mean, I don't do my projections in a vacuum. I mean, I check with a lot of people, but the expectation is that the sales tax, the taxable sales growth will continue, at least for a few more years. Property taxes is such a big piece of our revenue stream, and having it capped really hurts us. So we'll have to see if the legislature acts on that. We really are at their mercy, to put it, in that term, I guess. They set the laws, and we have to follow that. So there is potential, if they do change the law, that could dramatically change our tax structure, hopefully for the better and not for the worse, but there's always that out there.
Let's just talk about our current tax structure.
I know. So that's what I was going to say. So based upon what we know, which is limited, I would say that the growth will cover this. How much left over is really hard to determine because we're kind of in a period where our expenses are being monitored as close as they've ever been. As far as departmental budgets go, we've taken all the fluff out, if you will. You'll see that we're in the process of closing our books now, and I'll provide an update for you here in about a month or so. But we kind of know what to expect with our expenses. The biggest X factor, if you will, are the revenues. And right now, it looks like our growth is going to come from one of our primary revenue sources, not the others. So I know it's kind of a long way around. It is a tough question because it's hard to say how much money will we have left over after we spend this, because every year is unique. As it stands right now, we don't have a lot of growth that we're expecting. I mean, we're not expecting to boom. We're still expecting to grow, but in total, a few percentage points per year. So it's not a lot that's going to be left over for other programs or staffing needs or
So is it fair to say it will likely absorb most of our growth for the next coming years?
A good chunk. I don't know if I'd say most. Again, it's so hard to say how the rest of the growth will go, but I think it's fair to say your options will be limited, more limited than they have been even.
Thank you.
Helps.
Okay, anyone else? I'm going to open it up to
Mr.
public.
Mr.
Go ahead,
Mayor?
go ahead, Ron.
Thank you. You know, I just want to just kind of follow up with Julia's question because I'm really glad that she asked that question, and just kind of take a look back at just the last 90 days of the city council where we've been at. You know, in my rough calculations, you know, we've approved in the neighborhood of $700,000 additional burdens onto the budget after we passed it in May. And so we're continually going after additional absorbing money out of the system. You know, even telling the city manager that he had to go find the money somewhere in the budget to pay for, you know, $132,000 additional expenses on things. So the strain on the budget is very, very real, and is only going to get worse as we continue going on, you know, with you know, growth at 3%.
Is that it, Ron?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to open up the public comment. Is there anyone who wants to speak under public comment? I have one speaker. Anyone else? Okay, come, Mr. Mike Brown, come on down, Mike. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, good deal.
You don't have to run, Mike.
Mayor, thank you. It's good to see you again, council. My name's Mike Brown, as was mentioned, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the district health department. I want to make that clear. I'm actually speaking on behalf of a citizen. Now, I'm a citizen of Reno, but in years past, I have lived in Sparks a couple of times. Real quickly, I just retired as the fire chief of the North Lake Tahoe Fire Protection District. I've been a paramedic here in Northern Nevada for 35 years. I worked in this system in the 1980s as an EMT, and I've watched it evolve to where it's at today. It's ironic, in 2000, when you were asking about your ILS program, advanced program, I was here speaking to the same folks, well, different faces, but folks in the same positions. I believe that cost money back then as well. Everything we do, I understand. I manage the budget. I'm very sympathetic to budgets and monies and costs. Being a healthcare provider, I can't say enough about the presentation Chief Garrison and his staff put together. They hit everything I would have asked about. But speaking as a citizen, service delivery is what I look at. And when a fire truck shows up, it doesn't cover what color it is, but there's a level of expectation out there that you're going to get the service that you expect. And as Chief Garrison mentioned, Sparks is the last department to go ALS, to go paramedic services. I'm supportive of it because I want to see the best service possible to the visitors and your citizens here in the city of Sparks, just as we see throughout the rest of the county. You're a great organization. You're a great city. You got great public safety services. The enhancement of what they're providing here, you will save lives. You will see solid outcomes. You will see the ability of your citizens and your visitors to make it to the hospital in an efficient manner and to walk out of the hospital. We lose a lot of patients, but with services like this, you start seeing a greater amount of people that are actually able to survive their negative outcomes. We have to deal with and mitigate things that a lot of people don't ever have to be placed in a position to, but we have to give our folks the tools to do their job. It's very frustrating to be able to provide the services that paramedics can, and when you can't, at the ALS, at the advanced life support level. I've been there with these guys. I could tell you good outcomes. I could tell you a lot of negative outcomes that I've seen here in your own city. I worked for the ambulance provider here for many years. I worked for the providers that were here before RIMSA. We did a study 4 years ago. Your city manager Driscoll was there with us. He's been there with us throughout. And I got to say thank you for asking if these services were a necessity to the city of Sparks. We need to increase the level of services throughout Washoe County. It's not to take anything away from the current ambulance provider. What you're doing here is going to enhance their system. And those enhancements are something that we need throughout all Washoe County. I've managed ambulance services. I've been the manager of a fire department as the fire chief that provided paramedic services, both transport and off ALS engine companies. I asked Chief Garrison if I could come today in case you had any questions. You want to hear any horror stories about managing a service? There's really not. There are costs associated with it, that's for sure. But I think if you were to absorb those costs now, you're going to see your gains in the future. Things are changing. Chief Garrison knows the Affordable Care Act is changing. With that, services can be provided and potentially get reimbursement for those in the future. And I know they're going to try to forecast that, and they're going to look to everything they can to try to keep the cost down, as well as bring monies back in to help your budget. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to help answer.
Thanks, Mike. Any questions for Mike? Do you?
Not for Mike, I have one more for Tom.
Okay.
You don't want Jeff up here?
And Jeff. No, wait, sorry, not Jeff, Bob. It's the question I almost don't want to ask, but I think, you know, for those of us who served through with you and made awful, awful decisions in 2008, 2009, 2010, where we eliminated 35% of the city staff, and there was not a good decision on the table. I think it's irresponsible to not ask the what-if question of, in a boom and bust cycle in our city, which has been a pretty normal pattern, maybe not quite the level of volatility that we've had in recent history, but we've always had that volatility. When we went into the recession, we had gone to four-man crews, and when we were able to back off of it and say, you know what, that's not going to work right now. So my question really is, if the worst happens, and 2-3 years from now, a new council is staring down, looking at that level of cuts too, is there a way to back off of it? Can you invest and then move back and take 2 steps forward and take 1 step back? And I realize it's an awful question, right? But it's the reality that we've faced, and I think it's irresponsible not to ask that question.
Well, but boy, that requires a lot of speculation
Yeah, I know.
on my part. Can you revert, like, let's say had 4 fire trucks, paramedic, and so we found that we just couldn't pay for that any longer?
Right. I mean, we made it through without browning out stations, as an
Right.
example. What are our choices if you were facing cuts again?
Well, certainly I wouldn't suggest that we further cut our staffing levels. I think our staffing levels are as low as they could go. So that would be off the table. I think then you would have to look at programs, and even the last 3 or 4 years, we thought about our special teams, for example. Even though they were minimal cuts, they were on the table as considerations for cuts. So could you unravel this? I imagine you could. Again, you would have to reset your protocols to an advanced level and get relicensed, by the state to kind of set things back. I think it would be difficult at that time, because I think we'll get used to being paramedics, and I think the community will appreciate that level. So to unravel it, I think, would be very unpopular, especially as we start reporting on our successes in the last 2 years. So, Councilwoman, that's a very difficult question, almost impossible for me to answer with any level of confidence for you.
Sure. No. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Before I call on Ms. Bybee, let me make a couple of comments. One, to what you said. I misunderstood maybe what you said. We made some bad decisions.
No, we said made difficult decisions.
Difficult. I thought you said bad. Okay,
Oh,
I
no,
agree.
no,
We
no,
made
no.
some difficult decisions.
Yeah. They were the choices. What I was trying to say. I apologize. What I was trying to say is the choices that we had were bad.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
of them were bad, and they were difficult.
They were difficult. Got it. Thank you.
One thing you mentioned is unraveling programs that we put in place. Take a look at what we've unraveled in the last, since 2008, 7, 8. We've unraveled every department, every program, everything we've ever done in the city. Everything I looked and did, or tried to do, and worked with the council to do from 1999. We unraveled all of it, just about. Did we survive? Hell yes, we survived, and we're better for it now. So I don't worry about if we have to unravel something, God dang it, we'll unravel it. And it could happen. Could it happen? Sure it could happen, but we will be there. We can do it. I know we can as a city. We've done it already in every department. We've unraveled stuff. Police, fire, everywhere. We've unraveled stuff. And I think our firemen have stepped up, going to 3-man engine companies. How much money did that save us? Millions. Millions and millions of dollars. So if we were at 4-man engine companies and didn't have paramedics now, I would say we can't afford it. But I think we cannot afford not to do this right now. I mean, this is something we're going to have to do sooner or later to make sure and ensure we still have the best fire department in this valley. And we do. And we're going to continue that. So my whole basis here is it going to unravel? God, I hope not. I hope not. Have we unraveled things? Hell yeah, we unraveled it all. Was it sad? Was it hurtful? Sure it was. But we lived. We all lived through it. We'll live through this. Like Mr. Brown said, I think there's nothing worse than having the ability to do something, show up and you can't do it. They won't let you do it. And now we're talking about lives. So that's my comments. Ms. Spivey.
I'm actually going to ask almost the opposite. If we went with the Plan B option, can it be accelerated or amped up if we started to get the process started and we look financially, fiscally where we are in a year or 2 years? Can that be accelerated, or would it be, I'm not sure policy-wise, would it be a full policy decision? But I mean, if we got it started with Plan B, could we amp it up a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, when we saw that fiscally it was a more doable thing? I mean, is that something that would be possible?
Well, either plan that you select, if you selected one, could be modified in the future. And not only could it be modified by amping it up, which if you pick Plan B, I would assume that that would mean that we would train people and absorb that cost to do it quicker than waiting for attrition to hire more paramedics. But by the same token, if fiscally we didn't have the money, even though we had the paramedics, we could hold off a year to add another engine, even though we had the staffing. Does that make sense? So the plans can be modified however, the funds are available to implement it. If all of a sudden, the legislature changes the, property tax rules and we, our revenues increase, and this council deems that they would want to see paramedics across the board quicker, yes, we could do that. We could implement that.
Well, and I'm concerned with the fact we have paramedics now that cannot do that, cannot perform that function. And so, is that correct, that we have current paramedics, yes, but because we don't have the licensing to do that, correct, they can't perform paramedic, and we don't have the equipment? Is it equipment and?
It's both. It's
both. So, given we already, that's the starting point for me, that that obviously doesn't cost what the first option is, but to have the frustration of those paramedics who are already trained that can't be, give paramedic service when they answer a call is a grave concern to me. And I think we absolutely need to provide that. And what time frame we're on and financially, I think I'm flexible on, but I support absolutely we've got to do it, and how long that takes us and how much it costs, I guess are the questions at task. So thank you.
Ms. Reddy.
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion.
Okay.
And that really got to what I was trying to ask. I think accelerate and decelerate is probably a better word than unravel, that there's a gas pedal and we can put our foot down on it, or we can take our foot off depending on the economic conditions. So that's really, the flexibility is good. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion. I do have concerns about the opportunity cost. I want to say that up front, because I know the needs in the police department and the parks department and our treatment plant and some of our unfunded liabilities and the conversations that we have every single year, sometimes more during the recession, sometimes 4 or 5 times a year. So I do have some concerns about the opportunity cost, but that said, I think that you make a great case for why we need to do this. And I'm just super excited that the data is here to prove that case. So I'll go ahead and make a motion. I move to approve the implementation of paramedic level emergency medical service in the Sparks Fire Department following the guidelines set forth in Plan B.
Mr. Lawson.
A second for comments.
Go ahead.
So just keep in mind, and this is not just about the fire department, it's about the whole city. We just got tagged with 160,000 or 20,000 for homeless, and that wasn't not in the budget. This is another 85 not in the budget. We're $200,000 over budget right now on our what's the system called, Steve, the computer system, Acela. You know, these are all costs that keep firing at us every single day. So be patient with us because we're going to get there. You made a great case, by the way, and that's why there wasn't any questions about your presentation. You made a great case, and I think we got to do it, and I know we have to do it. But keep also in mind that our revenues are not growing at the rate we need them to, and we are getting hit every day. We've actually lowered our ending fund balance to 6% from 8.3%, just to squeeze more dollars out. So it's not been easy for us to sit up here. And I'm very cognizant and empathetic to our employees that basically have lost ground in the last 10 years in their salaries. Their buying dollars from 10 years ago to today are not the same. They have less buying power. And I want to see that rectified in the future too. Also keep in mind, we got hit 2 years in a row with 25% increases in our medical expenses. And that's a big number. That's about $1.5 million. If that happens again, boy, I don't know where we're going to come up with the money. So I agree, we got to do it, and I'm going to support Plan B option, and we'll move that thing along as fast as we can, obviously, but keeping in mind that we have a lot of other needs in the city that have to be addressed also.
Mr. Schmidt, do you have a comment? Go ahead. Let me do this first, Mr. Schmidt. We have a comment, we have a motion by Ms. Bybee, second by Mr. Lawson. Comments, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I should probably stay away from the council more often. All this conservative spending talk is starting to worry me.
Is that it?
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Any more questions? Everyone understand the motion? Okay, seeing no more discussion, no further discussion, please vote.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Congratulations, gentlemen. Thank you, Chief. Good job. Good job, everyone. I know it's a tough deal here, tough decision, but I think it's the right one. Mr. What's your name? Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, if you'll just allow me a comment for a moment on this. One of the things the city has prided itself on is making good decisions and doing the right things at the right time. And when I asked the question of the chief of whether or not we needed to go to paramedic level services, he took that question very seriously, and you saw that in his presentation. He's briefed you on numerous occasions. He's reached out to all the fire professional management teams in the area and has done research outside. In addition, with Captain McDonald's help with the medical expertise, really had some serious conversations with our medical director, whose license we will operate under with the policy decisions that you just made. So I think it's important that the level of service that all of our employees have striven for since 2007, and particularly fire, who is out there day to day making patient outcome changes. I couldn't be prouder of this organization and the amount of work that they did to come to the decision, and I'm very, very proud of this council because you've had a lot of hard questions for your management team, and we've not always satisfied your questions with worthy answers. So I appreciate what you've done, and I appreciate you moving this city forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Hear, hear, Mr. Manager. I agree 2,000%. Thank you all. Okay, let's move on. 9.8, consideration and possible approval of the revised Washoe County School District Joint Agreement, AC 5239-79, with the City of Sparks. Ms. Dominguez, Tracy.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. Tracy Dominguez, Parks and Recreation Director. Before you today is a revised joint use agreement that exists currently between the City of Sparks and the Washoe County School District. This document has not been revised since October of 2000. So in short, I just really wanted to clean it up get some misperceptions out of the document because we run into a lot of misunderstandings about who can use which facilities for free or for a cost, and really just honestly wanted to clean that up. I got to review Reno's agreement, which they updated in 2008, and had started a wish list, if you will, of things I wanted revised in our agreement, and saw that a lot of them already existed in Reno. So I was able to use theirs as somewhat of a template for the revisions. So in short, we did add the Youth Sports Foundation as a authorized, I guess, youth sports group that we partner with through the City of Sparks to use the fields at various facilities. We made slight adjustments in the deadlines for facility use applications, and that's a two-way street. They apply for our facilities and we apply for theirs. We did add some verbiage in there requesting that we get each party gets a confirmation in return for that application. A lot of times we never hear back and we move forward with 15 after-school sites, assuming it's okay for us to move in on the first day of school. And that's not always a safe practice, to assume no news is good news. So we added some deadlines in there. We've added the whole before and after school section. We also added liability per occurrence language that wasn't even in there before as far as an amount. And some of the appendices were also added. They've always been referenced in this agreement but never added for people to read and follow up on. So they add supporting information to the agreement that you might not have had before. So there was a lot of information in here. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions for Tracy? Okay, seeing no questions, looking for a motion. Ms. Bybee.
I move to approve the Washoe County School District Joint Use Agreement with the City of Sparks as presented by staff.
Ms. Ratty.
A second with gratitude for all of the work that goes into cleaning something like this up.
Motion by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Ms. Ratty to approve agenda item 9.8 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you very much.
Okay, 9.9 is a first reading. Ms. Gardner.
Bill number 2711, a general ordinance rezoning real property owned by Smith Intervenos Trust from SF 40 residential single family 40,000 square foot minimum lot size to SF 6 residential single family 6,000 square foot minimum lot size located at 1980 Probasco Way, Sparks, Nevada, and providing other matters properly relating thereto.
This is first reading for bill number 2711. The public hearing and second reading of this bill will be conducted at the regular city council meeting on Monday, September 12, 2016. Okay, let's move into some public hearing items. 10.1, second reading, discussion and possible adoption of bill number 2708, an ordinance amending Chapter 5 of the Sparks Municipal Code to provide for the regional technology fee. Go ahead, Jessica.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the City Council. Jessica Easler, Customer Service Manager. On July 11th, 2016, the Council adopted the Business Impact Statement for the Regional License and Permit Platform. The Business Impact Statement was prepared in partnership with the City of Reno and Washoe County. Together, we met with trade associations and discussed the impacts of the regionally proposed fee. We also sent out over 11,000 notices to business owners and customers of mutual customers of the region. Today, I'd like to request approval of bill number 2708, amending Chapter 5 of the Sparks Municipal Code to provide for the regional technology fee. The fee will be assessed $4 on an annual business license, $2 on a quarterly business license application and each renewal. As stated in the Business Impact Statement, the fee is intended to recover a portion of the cost, a portion of the capital outlay for the Acela platform, and will be collected at its implementation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Jessica? No, no questions? Okay, looking for a motion.
Public hearing.
Okay, this is, I'll open the public hearing. This is a public hearing item. Anyone in the audience like to speak to this particular agenda item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back.
Just
to
hand over your
council
$2
for action. Okay, looking for a motion. Spivey.
I move to adopt Bill 2708 to amend Chapter 5 of the Sparks Municipal Code to provide for the assessment of the regional technology fee for the regional business license and permit platform.
We have a second, Mr. Lawson.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Bybee, second by Mr. Lawson to approve agenda item 10.1, bill number 2708. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. 10.2 second reading and possible adoption of bill number 2709, amending the Title V of the Sparks Municipal Code relating to the city attorney's authority to seek injunction relief for the enforcement of Title V.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. Allison McCormick in the Sparks City Attorney's Office. Before you is a proposed amendment to the Sparks Municipal Code Title V, which would create a new section 5.08.046. That section would expressly allow the city attorney to seek preliminary or permanent injunctive relief from violations of Title V, which regulates businesses in the city of Sparks. That proposed amendment has two sentences. The first sentence expressly permits the city attorney to seek that injunctive relief. Some anticipated benefits of that first sentence. Just in general terms, it would add an arrow to the quiver of other enforcement mechanisms for protecting both the revenue stream for the city of Sparks from business licenses and associated fees, as well as protecting the public from unregulated, unlicensed businesses doing their business activities unlawfully in the city of Sparks. More specifically, adding this sentence to the Sparks Municipal Code would reduce the burden of showing irreparable harm. In general terms, when a party is seeking injunctive relief from a court, they usually have to show that without an injunction, that they will suffer irreparable harm. However, if there's a legislative enactment specifically allowing for injunctive relief under certain circumstances, showing irreparable harm is no longer required. The Nevada courts that have addressed reducing the irreparable harm standard have usually been addressing statutes. So whether an ordinance would apply would be an issue of first impression for Nevada's courts, but because the City Council is the legislative body for the City of Sparks, it's anticipated that that irreparable harm standard would be reduced, just like it would be for an NRS. Assuming that that would be the case, the city would still have to show by a preponderance of the evidence in each case that a particular defendant actually violated Title V of the municipal code. Another benefit of that first sentence allowing for injunctive relief would be that once an injunction was obtained against particular conduct by a particular defendant, that business operator could be subject to penalties for contempt of court if they continued to violate that injunction and the Sparks Municipal Code. That would be in addition to existing civil and criminal penalties. And that additional possibility for contempt of court proceedings would hopefully help the city to prevent recurring violations by those more willful offenders. As to the second sentence of the proposed amendment, it expressly allows the city attorney to initiate these injunctive relief actions without the city council's prior express permission. And that second sentence has a couple of benefits as well. First of all, it would avoid tipping our hand to these violators who in some cases are very sophisticated. They can change the locations of where they are unlawfully doing their business. They can change their business organization style, and they can change their practices or contact information to avoid enforcement if if we were to tip our hand by placing an item on an agenda. Similarly, not having to place individual cases on the City Council's agenda would allow for more efficient and expedited enforcement of the business code. So without that express prior approval requirement that generally applies to civil litigation, the city attorney could proceed rather quickly to enjoin these more egregious violators. And finally, unlike a typical civil action for damages, an action for injunctive relief is generally less time-consuming and less burdensome on both the courts and the parties. So that's one major difference between the typical civil litigation for damages that we might encounter. And with that, if there are any questions I can answer.
Questions, Mr. Lawson?
No questions, we're gonna make a motion. Public hearing.
Anyone else?
After you do the-
Sure. Go ahead, Ron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to go ahead and take in some finer points of the analysis here. And I spoke to Mr. Adams earlier today, and I want to just go and make sure that all cease and desist notices now are going to be directed from the city attorney's office and not code enforcement. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, let me address that, Councilman Schmidt. I've had a discussion with Mr. Rundle and have asked that the city attorney's office be included in all business license enforcement actions. I've expressed both my concern and my willingness to not only take the point on these, but to protect the city and all its employees from miscommunications, misinterpretations. And I think that before anything comes out from the city ordering a business to cease and desist, and because of the important nature of businesses in our community, I think we're very fortunate to have those entities and individuals in our city that are willing to risk their personal fortunes to do business here. And before that's jeopardized by any legal correspondence, I think it's only appropriate that our office get involved first. Code enforcement is an asset. We have some dedicated people over there who I think have expressed a willingness to assist us in our investigative efforts, but I don't think it's appropriate to require them to be part of the enforcement. The overall enforcement, I think that's better served through either business licenses and or the courts.
Okay. Thank you. I think I got most of that. And then just clarify the notice of violation. The business will be notified of violations. Will that be done by the city attorney's office, or will that be done by the code enforcement officers and then be used by the city attorney's office as the notice?
The code enforcement officers are not part of our current code enforcement program. The initial enforcement effort comes from business license by form of a letter or a phone call or both. I am in the loop in all of that, and that gives me the opportunity to follow up with my own phone call, my own certified letter. So code enforcement really has no place in the direct enforcement of Title V of our municipal code. They're ancillary to assist us in acquiring evidence, but I don't see code enforcement as being an integral part of the enforcement mechanism.
Well, I think my issues are being addressed, and I thank Mr. Adams for taking the time at those phone calls to go ahead and make sure that we have a consistent and fair loop for all the businesses, that somebody doesn't get caught up in this. I understand fully going after those that are non-licensed and doing business, but there's also that gray area where a light business license may or may not cover that activity, and I want to make sure that we treat all the businesses fair when we get into those gray areas.
I agree. I think it's very important that personal contact be made. As the council is aware, we implemented the business license accountability support team several years ago. And it was my experience that 95 to 98% of the businesses that were not in compliance with Title V of our code, we're not doing so intentionally, maliciously. And once they talk with somebody from the city who indicates that A, they appreciate what it is that they are doing, and B, they're willing to work with them, most of these problems are resolved informally.
Okay, is that it, Ron?
Thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing. I didn't so open to public. Anyone want to speak to this particular agenda item? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Looking for a motion. Mr. Lawson.
I move to adopt bill number 2709, amending Title V of the Sparks Municipal Code.
Second, Ms. Bybee.
Second?
We have a motion by Mr. Lawson, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve agenda item 10.2, bill number 2709. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to 10.3, second reading and possible adoption of bill number 2710, amending Title II of the Sparks Municipal Code relating to the city attorney's authority to seek injunctive relief for the enforcement of Title V without the prior express permission of the city council. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is a companion piece to the amendment that the council just adopted. It reiterates in the section governing the duties of the city attorney that this is an exception and that the city attorney does not need the council's prior express approval before filing an action for injunctive relief pursuant to that section. And if there are any questions.
Questions? Okay, seeing none, this is a public hearing. I don't know, does anyone in the audience like to speak to this particular item under public hearing? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Looking for a motion. Ms. Bybee?
I move to adopt Bill 2710, amending Title II of the Sparks Municipal Code, allowing the city attorney to seek injunctive relief for violations of Title V of the Sparks Municipal Code without seeking prior express permission from the city council.
We have a second, Mr. Lawson.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Mr. Lawson to approve agenda item 10.3, bill number 2710. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, dear. Appreciate it. Okay, 12.1, comments from the public. Anyone want to speak under comments from the public? Moving on, 12.2, comments from the city council and city manager, Mr. Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 3 announcements this afternoon. The first one is due to a resignation, the city of Sparks is looking for someone to serve the remainder of a term on the Sparks Planning Commission. The term runs through December 31st of 2018. This appointee would be eligible for reappointment for additional terms. The applications will be accepted on this position until the close of business on September 6th, 2016. Second would be a committee appointment for the following: an Enterprise Fund Advisory Committee member, 1 member of the construction industry for a 4-year term, and all subsequent appointments would be for 4-year terms. Applications for this committee would be accepted until close of business on August 26th of 2016. And finally, we have an opening for an appointment to the Arts and Culture Advisory Commission, 1 member for a 2-year term. Qualifications are 1 member with both performing arts background and arts advocacy experience. Applications will be accepted for this committee position until the close of business on Friday, September 30th. For persons interested in serving on any of these committees, they should complete a community service application available from the city clerk's office. You may also apply online at the city's website, www.cityofsparks.us. Click on City Services on the web page, then click on Volunteering, Get Involved, and then click on Fill Out a City of Sparks Volunteer Application. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else? Okay, thanks, Ron, for tuning in. I appreciate it. You have something? Redevelopment. We have redevelopment? Okay, well, let me finish adjourning here. Don't go away, Ron. We have further business to do. Anyway, we see no further business here. We are adjourned.
I'd like to call to order the Sparks Redevelopment Agency meeting of August 22nd, 2016 with a roll call.
Chairperson Ratty?
Here.
Agency members Lawson?
Here.
Smith, absent. Martini?
Here.
Bybee? Here. Schmidt?
Here.
Agency Attorney Adams?
Here.
Chief Administrative Officer Driscoll?
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
I'm going to open up to public comment. Seeing none, I'll move on to agenda item number 4, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second?
Moved by agency member Lawson, seconded by agency member Martini. Do we have any discussion? Oh, the magic machine is working again. All right, seeing no discussion, please vote.
Aye.
Yes.
You don't have a machine, you know?
My machine's on. Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Item
machine's
5.1,
off.
consideration and possible approval of the minutes of the Sparks Redevelopment Agency of July 11th.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion by agency member Lawson, seconded by agency member Bybee. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Motion passes unanimously. Item 6.1, report of claims and bills approved for payment and appropriation transfers for the period of June 23rd through August 3rd, 2016.
Move to approve.
Second?
Motion by agency member Lawson, seconded by agency member Martini. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify
Aye.
by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 7.1, comments from the public. Seeing none, any comments from the agency or chief administrative officer? Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned.